Hi, everyone. My name is Seante Johnson. I am the founder and executive director of Birthday Bashbox. And yeah, it's a Houston area nonprofit.
Awesome. We're really excited to have you with us today. It's a shame you couldn't come to class, but it's definitely safer that campus is shut. Um, so we're grateful for all the technology we have, and now we can do the Zoom meeting, and then I'll post it to the class session, so everybody will get a chance to hear all about it. So why don't you tell me and the whole class more about Birthday Bash Box?
So, Birthday Bashbox is a literacy and social emotional learning experience for children. And it's through birthday parties, of course. And we have two programs. Our first program is where we have birthday bashes at Houston area elementary schools. And our second program is where we give parents everything that they would need to have a birthday party for their child in a box. And that's our birthday box program. And in each program, we do incorporate the literacy and social emotional learning aspects of our program.
Okay, cool. So I've seen some of the pictures from some of the parties, and so it looks like, is it like books are presents or books are like the kind of the giveaway items? Like, how is it that you incorporate the literacy into the birthday parties?
So we give books as a part of some of their giveaways. They do get gifts that they choose, so they can choose from things. They can choose things that are like electronics or art supplies or just different things that they would like. But the books part is where we have a partnership with another nonprofit and they give us all of our books. And the agreement is that the children in our programming choose the book that they want. So that way they'll be more likely to read it. And then in the book, they get a bookmark that says, read the book when you are bored, read the book when it's raining, read the book when you are waiting for the doctor, just different times to read the book, read it to parents, what to do with words that you don't know. So if you run across a word you don't know, Google it, try to use the word in your everyday language, try to use the word when you have writing assignments, and different things like that. So it's kind of self-guided for the child because
Mhm.
we know with the children that we serve, their parents aren't always in their well, they're in their lives, but they're not in their like heavily involved in their education.
Mhm.
So we wanted something to where it's easy for the child to keep up with because it goes inside of their book, and it is something that it's easy for the child to read and follow along and do.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cute. That's a great idea. Kind of making it fun because I think especially with like elementary age, sometimes they view reading as a chore. So to have it kind of celebrated as part of their birthday, that's a great way to kind of get them excited about it and get them to see it as a gift instead of just, something they have to do for school. Awesome. So what prompted you to start this?
So, Birthday Bash Box actually started as a class project. So, I was in the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance at U of H, and we had to create a business plan for a nonprofit. And this isn't the nonprofit I did, I actually did my business plan on a food bank at the university.
Mm-hmm.
But I this that project brought up a conversation with my mom and I about things that children need that people don't think about, and she told me about my birthday parties as a child and how I had these huge grand parties. At the time, I was the only grandchild in the family.
Oh, wow.
Everyone,
Lucky.
everyone came out to my birthday parties, and we had them for years. And even up until there were more grandkids in the family, I just always had huge birthday parties.
Mm-hmm.
There was always one child who was at the parties. She said for about 2 or 3 years, the girl would be at the parties and she would seem really sad. And she said when we grew older, she found out that it was also that girl's birthday, and she got to
Oh,
celebrate it. So
oh.
that's what made me think, okay, this is what I have to do. So I did the project on the food bank on campus, but
Mhm.
I started writing notes. I keep a binder that I just put all my business ideas in, and I started writing all of my notes down and creating the business plan for a birthday bash box.
Oh, that's incredible. That's awesome. So you kind of you had an idea, but then you pivoted when you realized there was another need that I mean, to be honest, a food bank on campus is definitely needed. And I know Houston Food Bank had started doing more outreach.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that, I mean, I don't think there's anything similar. I don't think I've seen anything similar to birthday bash bags.
So there are a few nonprofits. You know, as a entrepreneur, I have to know my competition,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and nonprofits are a business,
mm-hmm,
and it's just the financials are different, and so there are a few other nonprofits that are very similar to mine. There
mm-hmm.
actually are a few in Texas. There's one in Dallas, one in the Austin area, one around San Antonio, but they all only celebrate birthdays. We are the only one who have educational components in our program.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, kind of add that extra level, add that extra layer. That's awesome.
Well, my
Um,
mom's an educator, so it just came about with being around my mom.
oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, ditto. My mom's a teacher, so it's always great to have that influence. So what was the process for getting it registered as a nonprofit, and how was that experience?
So well, I thought the experience would be long. I thought it would be a hard thing, but it ended up being really quick.
Mhm.
So I often hear people say, expect a year. And
Mhm.
I have heard of people who have had a year go by and they keep running into red tape.
Mhm.
But for birthday bash box, it only took about a month.
So is it 501c3 that you filed with the federal? Okay.
Yeah. So first you have to file with the state. It's
Hmm.
the Secretary of State, and that's where you get your nonprofit status or your nonprofit, yeah, your nonprofit status. So you have to be a nonprofit in Texas,
Hmm.
and it only costs $25, and I got that back in 3 days. And
Hmm.
then I immediately filed with the IRS for my tax exempt status, which is 501c3 for my particular nonprofit, and that one cost, I believe, 275, and I heard back from them by the end of the month. So at the beginning of March of 2018, I filed with the Secretary of State, and by March 29th, I had my letter in my hand saying that Birthday Bash Box is a 501c3.
Okay, perfect.
The only issue I ran into was with the Secretary of State because your business cannot have a similar name to
Mhm.
another business in the state
Okay. Hmm.
because of the nonprofit that celebrates birthdays in Dallas. The name that I wanted initially was not available. You
Gotcha.
can't have the first two words in um, you can't have the first two words be the same as another company,
Okay.
period. And so birthday party was taken.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. But the advantage now that you have with that 501c3 is if people make donations like cash donations, then they are eligible to deduct them, right? So that's the advantage of getting that status and putting in that effort to get that status. It partly for the recognition because people kind of understand what a 501c3, but also just legally speaking, now they can deduct it, right? Cool. Okay, that's awesome. So then, um, initially, how did you fund it? I know you said that the city has some resources for, starting nonprofits and helping you go through that process. But I know that with any business, the initial funding is one of the biggest challenges to overcome. And with a nonprofit, you don't really have the same thing where you can sell a particular good. So getting that seed funding, what was that process like?
So I just started reaching out to people I know. I have built a vast network by being heavily involved in different organizations as a student at University of Houston. And we're still connected. I still hold those relationships, and so I just started reaching out on Facebook. I did a few Facebook birthday fundraisers. A lot of Most of my board, yeah, I think all but one is a U of H alumni.
Nice.
So reaching out to their networks that I'm not a part of, or some that I am a part of, that they just have a greater influence in. Reaching out to family, and then of course myself. I don't. It's my opinion that as a business owner or business founder, you
Mm.
need to put in some money as well. You started this, it's good to put in some as well. So I put in a few thousand in the beginning as well.
Awesome. Yeah, when they're talking about like venture capital, so generally speaking, like tech companies, that's one of the things you always look for is like, skin in the game. Like, did the person put in their own funds? And that's fascinating. I think that it's an awesome kind of sign of your passion about this project. But I think the other, good takeaway is that you don't have to be United Way to be a not-for-profit. There are plenty of like local needs that can be met with like just family and friends funding and Facebook event funding, and that's kind of a novel model for not-for-profits. Something that's been used by like tech startups for a while is that kind of like bootstrapping and starting small. But I think it's fantastic to see that you've done it in the not-for-profit sphere and kind of demonstrated that this is something you can do. You don't need massive $1 million grants to start a not-for-profit.
No, you don't. And it's not that I'm not trying to get there.
Well, yeah, obviously $1 million grants make everything easier. Nobody's going to debate that one.
I recently started working on grant writing and things like that. I haven't started the grant writing, but I know that's something that I lack. I'm not the best writer, so I've been seeking out different organizations and different videos on YouTube and just different things to be able to work on that weakness that I have. So
Mm-hmm.
that way I can be an effective grant writer and possibly later on get those $1 million grants. However, I did get a grant. It wasn't something that I wrote though. I
Nice.
just so happened to meet a lady. So I'm from the Hilton College. My background is in event planning.
Nice.
So I'm from the Hilton College, and we had our 50th birthday last year. And I was there at our cake cutting, and there was a lady who just so happened to be standing next to, struck up a conversation with her, found out she was a fundraiser and a former fundraiser for the university. And she reached out to me the next day, said, "Hey, could you send me this information
Mm-hmm.
about your nonprofit? I want to write a grant for you."
Oh, nice.
Asked the foundation for 1,500, and they told her that they thought I would need more money, so they gave me $3,000.
Oh, nice.
It was great. It was really exciting to get that in the mail because she wrote that in September, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe I got the check in January. I had
Mm-hmm.
forgotten all about it. So yeah, that was nice to get. And so after all of this is over and we can not have social distancing, we plan
Yeah.
to meet up, and she wants to introduce me to the board of that foundation so that I could start fostering that relationship on my own.
Oh, fantastic. That's awesome. Yeah, to be honest, one of the things I've noted about academic grant funding is even though there's a formal process, it's also really important to have, and I know this is like one of those kind of, mm,
It's kind of who you know.
it is because even with like, so for example, for small business research, which is what I do, Russell Sage Foundation, technically it's an open call, but you have to have a good idea of what kind of projects they're looking for. And they list, normally like 4 categories of projects, but it's really useful to be able to bounce your ideas off somebody. Like, is this what you're looking for? um, So it's kind of an art, the grant writing. It is also, networking. So that's great that you've got to start on that, especially like with the U of H ecosystem that you've already started to plug into that. That's fantastic. And like you said, I think it was great that you kind of pointed out that even with a relatively small grant, it still took 3 or 4 months, because that's definitely one of the challenges of not-for-profits is grant funding money moves slow. Yeah, so as long as you know that, I think you're okay. You just gotta.
And also have in the back of your mind that you may not get this money. It's not guaranteed. And I think it should be used as surprise money. So basically, where you operate as if you're not going to get it,
Mm-hmm.
have a plan for if you do get it. So
Right.
that way you know what to do moving forward. I would
Uh,
assume the grant, when you're writing the grant, you would have to put what you're going to do in it as well. So you would already have that plan.
mm-hmm.
Haven't written a grant, so I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I think it shouldn't be counted on as something that's going to happen.
Right. Right. And I know a lot of times grants are like staged, so you'll get, half the money or 2/3 of the money at one point, and then you got to meet certain milestones. Like I'm sure for you, it would be just, like doing a certain number of parties or reaching a certain number of eligible students, that kind of thing. Well, that's really cool. So how do you do the accounting? Do you do it yourself? Do you outsource it? What software?
Right now, I am teaching myself, and I'm not alone on this. This is not something that I'm on YouTube with. Granted, I do get on YouTube and um, just research a few things,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a resource that I have with the Small Business Development Center, I believe it's
So you
called.
get the SBDC down in Fannin. That,
Yes.
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And there is a lady there who knows QuickBooks. And because she is an advisor, if I go through the Small Business Development Center, I can meet with her to go over my accounting. So
Oh,
I'm doing it on my own, and we were actually supposed to meet yesterday, and we had to reschedule because they're figuring out how to do everything online now. So
right. Mm-hmm.
hopefully in the next few weeks. But I haven't been too worried about my accounting because fundraising has not been my main focus right now.
Mm-hmm.
Since I started the organization, my main focus was building a solid foundation. I knew that things would be taken care of with getting the resources that I needed because people keep donating party supplies,
Mm-hmm.
donating toys. And so as long as I have this stockpile of donations, I don't have to have money.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to have money, and I'm not going to send it away. It's just not something that I absolutely need. So it gave me time to be able to work on little things that I needed to make sure that my programming was solid, and my volunteer handbook was written, and just different little things that I needed to do for the nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, accounting has not been on my radar until now because I finished those things, or I'm almost done,
Mm-hmm.
and we're starting to get bigger money in, and
Mm-hmm.
because of that, I want to make sure my accounting is where it needs to be. So
Right.
I am familiar with the balance sheet and the different um, statements that I need. It's just I haven't been fully focused on it because I think outside of myself putting in a few $1,000s, it's been less than 1,000 outside of that $3,000 check that came in earlier this year.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you do get a lot of in-kind donations, right? So you do take, party supplies and toys and books and things. So that's interesting because that presents some different challenges. But I'm sure going forward, as you're seeking grant funding, they're going to require that you have financial statements in a lot of cases. So,
Yes, which is why I'm starting now because I know right now it will still be easy because I'm I'm getting money in, but not a huge amount where it would be overwhelming. And so I wanted to start now, since the paperwork stuff is done that I've been working on. I wanted to start now while it's small, so that way I can learn it while it's small and then grow as it grows. I do use QuickBooks. It's $50 for nonprofits, $50 a year.
Okay, annual license.
And so that helps a lot. So, and I connected it to the bank account that Birthday Bash Box has, and it just pulls in every transaction.
Oh, cool. Yeah. QuickBooks is great for small business accounting. There's only one real competitor, and they're relatively new, called Xero, Xero. But the thing is, QuickBooks kind of has the market share with the old guard. So if you're working with any advisors for like any established like SBDC, probably going to recommend QuickBooks because they're more familiar with it. I mean, it's been around for, I honestly don't even know, but literally decades, that's for certain. Oh, that's cool though. Yeah, I mean, Peachtree used to be a competitor, but I don't even hear about Peachtree that much anymore. Yeah, so QuickBooks kind of makes sense, and that's great. Okay, so then what have been kind of your biggest challenges, either financially or administratively?
Um, I think my biggest challenge is, this may sound weird, but it's having the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know where my strengths are and I know where my weaknesses are. I take a lot of workshops, and then I'm always out networking and meeting people, because I do believe that building relationships, genuine relationships, is going to help me be successful with this. So having time to do every little thing that I need to do has been my biggest problem. Also, it getting volunteers and getting help has been an issue, because I needed the time to kind of organize my thoughts on what exactly I needed to be able to articulate it to someone else, saying,
Mm-hmm.
I need you to do to help me. So
Mm-hmm.
if I don't have the time, I can't recruit the volunteer, because the volunteer won't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So getting all of that paperwork and the planning ahead things that I wanted to do out of the way has really helped me be able to get volunteers and get people to help.
Yeah,
But
you mentioned one of the things you were doing was like writing up like a how-to guide, a document for the volunteers. So now you have a better sense of something you can kind of institutionalize and like share with them so that everybody gets the same information.
yes. So there is an organization, I believe they're called Houston Association of Volunteer Administrators. I
Hmm.
think that's the name of it. Um, they have different workshops or meetings a month,
Hmm.
and they go over different topics. So I've gone to a few of them. I'm not a member, but I've gone to a few, and they release what the topic is going to be on, so that way I know what I'm getting into.
Hmm.
But I went to the one on volunteer handbooks.
Hmm. Okay,
Like, that
good.
was something I needed, just in case something happens where I can't be there and I can't tell the volunteers what I need.
Hmm.
There's a handbook that gives great detail, but it's also fun to look at, because I've seen other handbooks where it's all black and white, and there are no pictures. It's very boring. It's like reading a manual for how to work on a car. And so I wanted to make sure that, even though it may be a little boring to read, it's kind of like a party on a page. So
Hmm.
it's very colorful. There's pictures that go along with what I'm talking about in the manual, and but it's also very thorough. So
Hmm.
that way they don't have too many questions, and it's all there. You know, questions are fine. I just wanted to make sure that they had all of their tools. I like it to be easy for my volunteers to volunteer.
Hmm.
If that makes any sense.
Well, that's perfect. Yeah, that's smart, and that's a good way to go about it. Awesome. You've mentioned some things, and I'll when I post this video, I'll post which one your Facebook page is probably that seems to be your most active mode of communication, or
Facebook and my Instagram, they're both at Birthday Bashbox.
okay.
Yeah, the Instagram has more behind the scenes things than Facebook would because I post on the Instagram stories. Because I like, since we're small, I like for people to see what I'm doing behind the scenes.
You're perfect. I'm just the worst millennial. I don't have an Instagram account. I'm like, oh. I know I joke. I'm like, I'm really bad. I'm a really bad millennial. I'm like, okay, awesome. Well, I'm sure a lot of the students in the class have Instagram, so we'll definitely make sure that we get those up there so that way if they want to get in touch with you or they want to see what you're doing, they can kind of see what's going on. But just kind of closing us out, what kind of advice would you give students who want to work in the nonprofit sphere or start their own nonprofit? What would you recommend, or even just get involved in the nonprofit spirit, not necessarily
So
anything?
if they want to just get involved and volunteer, I would suggest just finding a nonprofit that speaks to your heart, something where you would love to be there, or there is, I don't know if there's an organization out there like this for men, but for women, there is the Junior League of Houston,
Mm-hmm.
which is involved in several different organizations. And you get to, I'm in the Junior League, so shameless plug. But
Fair enough.
being in the Junior League, you get to experience different organizations and different types of volunteer positions that you may not be able to do if you weren't in the Junior League. But just if you want to just get involved in nonprofit, find one that speaks to your heart. If you want to be a founder of a nonprofit, I would suggest what I would tell any other entrepreneur: join or be a part of an organization or work for an organization that you think is similar to what you want to accomplish in your own.
Mm-hmm.
That way you can see how their programming is run and maybe how you can tweak it for your own. You can see how different things are run and implemented in your own, or even if there isn't a nonprofit that's similar to what you want to start, maybe one who serves the same population, so you get to know who the people are that you're serving. If you want to work in the nonprofit field, I didn't say that one, did I? Work? No? Okay. So if you want to work in the nonprofit field, I would suggest, again, being a part of an organization that speaks to your heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to give back in any shape, form, or fashion. But in my opinion, if it's something that speaks to your heart, when there are bad days at work, because there aren't, every day is not going to be a great day.
Mm-hmm.
When there are bad days at work, it's okay because you're still doing something that's in your heart. So that's what I would give. Also, there are a few resources around the city. So if you're working in nonprofit, depending on what area you're working in, I would suggest joining organizations like the one I mentioned earlier, the Houston Area Volunteer Administrators. I think that's the name of it. The Association of Fundraising Professionals. There is GPA. They're the Grant Professionals Association, the Houston chapter. Just different organizations that support your professional development. And then you can also meet other people and network with people who are similar to you in your role at the organization. Also, if you want to start a nonprofit, I would suggest learning about entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And just because you're starting a not-for-profit organization doesn't mean that you're not an entrepreneur. So I would learn about business. I would read business books. Like I just read Tillman Fertitta's book, Shut Up and Listen. It's great. What else?
So we can do a shameless plug for sure now too.
Oh yes, sure. The Sure program. Oh man, that is the best program I have ever been a part of. So yes, the Sure program at University of Houston is great for entrepreneurship. Um,
And
and
that's how I met you from.
yes, that is how we met, standing in line at Sure. And then there is a small business development center.
Mhm.
There is the Small Business Administration. Also, for nonprofits, there's an organization called ESH. I think it's spelled ESCH. And I think it's Executive Service Corps Houston. And they help with things that are specifically for nonprofits. So they have workshops on building your board, because to start a nonprofit, you have to have a board of 3 people at the very least.
Mhm.
And so they tell you how to build that foundation of starting your board, how to do financials. I did take a financial management class for nonprofits through them a few months ago.
Oh, nice.
So there are many different resources around the city for people who want to be founders of nonprofits. But I would also just think about things as a business, because overall nonprofits are businesses. It's just the financials that are different and how you handle the money. You're not getting donations and putting them in your pocket like you could if you were an LLC, where you would make money and you can say, well, I can put this in my pocket. I think that's what you can do. I'm not really too much in the LLC world, so don't quote me on that. But
But you can take distributions if it's your own business. Yeah. I mean, you can take either salary, wages, or, you know.
mhm. And with a nonprofit, you would have to take a salary,
Mhm.
and I haven't done that yet. You know, it's not a smart thing to do for me right now.
Mhm.
But it's not the same when it comes to the money. But just if you think of everything else as a business, I think it would help with marketing your organization, and knowing who your target audience is, and just different things like that. But the Sure program, if you can get into the Sure program, it's a free program at U of H, then it will, and it's open to the community. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a U of H alumni, or you don't have to be a student registered with the university. It's a community thing, but it's a great organization that will help you get there as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I'm so excited. It's been fantastic talking to a fellow Cougar about the not-for-profit sphere, and truly, like, I think the work you're doing is awesome. I think promoting literacy in children and making it an exciting thing, that's a fantastic idea. Wish you the best with it. Thank you so much. I'm excited to see what the students think about this when I, post the video for class. I'm excited to see.
And if they
Um,
have any questions, they can reach out to me. It's fun. They can email me. My email address is sjohnson@birthdayBashbox.org. So if they
awesome.
put in the subject U of H student, I will make sure I click on it. I get a lot of emails, so I could easily filter if I just type in UH. So
Awesome.
reach out to me. It's fine. I don't mind at all.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. I'll make sure that they've got I mean, you've said it, but I'll make sure that I type it out and they've got the address as well. And they've got all the ways to get in touch with you. And thank you so much. I hope you stay safe.
All right. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.